Hello and welcome everyone for today's session on tailored transportation in supply chain under the module of supply chain management. As we know, transportation is one of the most important area in supply chain management, as the traditional supply chain all of us know about, that is manufacturer, distributor, retailer and customer, MDRC. So in this supply chain is like a journey, and this journey is only possible through transportation. And talking about the cost and revenue, transportation is one of the major cost center in supply chain. Okay, so today we are with this wonderful topic of tailored transportation in supply chain, which is used to optimize the cost of transportation in supply chain. Let us proceed with the lecture. So the agenda for today's lecture is, first we'll see the scenario of transportation in supply, then what are the transportation avenues available, then while designing the transportation for our supply chain, what are the design options available, then comparative for that design options, then we will come to our today's topic, that is tailored transportation. We will see two variants based on customer density and distance and based on size of customer. Finally, we will see how we can tailor the truckload and what are the various aggregation strategies for optimization of cost. So proceeding further, so scenario of transportation. Whether you talk about any two nodes of the supply chain, the material is transferred from one node to another through a transportation. If we talk about pre-manufacturing stage, then the raw materials will be supplied by the vendor to the industry through some transportation medium, and similarly, the finished product after manufacturing will be delivered to either distributor or retailer or customer through some transportation avenue. So, the cost which is involved in this transportation is directly or indirectly bared by customer, or sometimes jointly by the seller and the buyer. So what are the various transportation avenues available? So big industries have their own vehicles for transit. So they deliver their own product if the product volume is high. Then there are load carrier third party service providers available, as we know that there are transport carrier companies or agencies. Then there are parcel or courier carriers. Then there are cargoes. Then there are rolling stocks, that is transportation through railway, and there are air freight services. So these are the various transportation avenues available to carry out the material transit in the supply chain. So what are the various design options available for designing supply chain transportation? So while designing these transportation avenues for our supply chain, three prime questions are necessary, as you can see. Number one, the transportation will be direct or through some intermediate junction. So sometime what happens, the deal, or we can say the order is like, I want this much products. So I will give my order to the seller. Seller will make those product and directly deliver to me. So in this case, there will be a direct transportation of the product from seller's company to my site. Okay, to the customer site. So the junction is not mandatory in such cases. Now if there is a junction, so the second question is the junction is for storing the stock, or it is just cross docking? Now what is this? So sometimes there are distribution centers, so there are junctions that we'll see in detail in some upcoming slides. So are you storing the product at that particular junction, or you are just cross docking? Cross docking means we are shipping the product to some junction, there that product is unloaded from the truck and immediately loaded to some small vehicle to be delivered to the customer. So there is no storage at that junction. So that is called as cross docking. And the third question is, the delivery route is for single location or for multiple location. So the answer to these questions will give us the design options for supply chain transportation. So six design options you can see here. Number one is direct shipment network to destination. Then direct shipping with milk runs. We'll see what is milk run. It is a new term. Then all shipment via distribution center with storage, and all shipment via transit point with cross docking. Fifth option is shipping via DC, that is distribution center using milk runs. And sixth one is tailored network. So we will see one by one what are the various design option, and we will try to understand it in detail. So number one is direct shipment to destination. As I said, not making the system very much complex, if we try to keep it simple, then the seller will directly ship the goods to the buyer location. Okay, so seller can ship to multiple buyer location, or multiple sellers can ship to a single buyer location. But there is no intermediate junction. As you can see in the figure, there is no junction. Once the truck departed from supplier location, it will reach directly to the buyer location. Okay, so these are generally in the case of special orders, then where the privatized vehicles are involved. So I am the company, I have my own vehicle fleet. So I just loaded the goods in that vehicle and directly shipped it to the buyer's location. But this is possible when distance is limited. It is not advisable for longer distances. Then second option is milk run. Now what is milk run? Just to give it a thought, milk run is either in one trip you are covering either multiple buyer, as you can see on the left side, or multiple supplier. Now what is this? So this is that if the supplier one, okay, supplier one has to ship the goods to three buyers, so what will happen in a single truck, in a single trip, he will start the journey from here. Then it will go to B1, B2 and B3, supply the material to all three and return to supplier 1. In a similar way, it is possible that buyer 1 needs the material from three suppliers. Okay, so what the milk run will be, a single truck will go to three suppliers. You can see these arrows. In a single truck, it will collect all the goods from all the three suppliers, and finally the goods will be delivered to buyer 1. So these short runs, as you can see by these small arrows, okay, these are called as milk runs. So milk run is just a term which means that when we have multiple, either multiple buyers in the system or multiple sellers in the system, so a single trip will cover all the buyers and all the sellers. So this concept is called as milk run. Okay, now it is well understood why these milk runs are adopted, just to save the cost, that we'll discuss more further. Then next option is all consignment via DC. Now DC, I will use this term from now on as DC only. So it is the acronym for distribution center. So as you can see, within this transportation, there is a centralized distribution center in which all the suppliers will send their trucks to DC, and then there will be a separate fleet of trucks who will supply the material from DC to buyer. So it is a single point depot where all the suppliers send their material, and then depot sends the material to the buyers. Okay, now here there are two options, as we discussed earlier, that either this distribution center can have the storage facility like warehouse. So this distribution center can be a warehouse where product will come from supplier, it will be stored for some day or some weeks, and then it will be delivered to buyer. Otherwise, if the distribution center does not have storage facility, so what we call it, as we discussed earlier, it is called as cross docking center. So it is just like a ground with a big parking space where all the trucks from supplier comes and get parked, material is unloaded and immediately loaded to the other truck who are going for the further trip to buyer location. So it is called as cross docking center. Then next option, which is the mixed option, that is milk runs via DC. So we have already seen what is milk runs. So these milk runs can be adopted also from DC as a center. So DC will generate the milk run to the multiple buyers. Okay. So it is the combination of milk run system and distribution center system. So here the milk runs will be to and fro from DC, that is distribution center. Now this is the comparative table which will show you the pros and cons for various design option. So just to give it the bird eye view, I will tell you what are the various pros and cons for every design option. So first design option is very simple. Okay, simple to coordinate, that is direct shipping. You order me, I will deliver to your location, that is direct shipping. So what are the pros? No intermediate warehouse, so no cost of warehousing is there, and it is simple to coordinate. But what are the cons? So there are high inventories due to lot size. So all the inventory is to be stored at either my location or the buyer location. Then there are significant receiving expense. So in such cases, the shipping cost is very high as it is private. So it is either to be bared by the customer or it is to be bared by the seller. Okay, and ultimately if the seller bears it, he will add to the selling price of the product, so ultimately it will be bared by the customer. Then the second option, direct shipping with milk runs. Now milk runs, we know it is for lower transportation cost for small lots and there will be lower inventories. But what is the con? That it will increase the system complexity. You have to design the milk run. Milk run cannot be decided just as a vague thought. It should be thought upon as per the distance. Then while designing the milk run, we have to also arrange the goods inside the truck as per the sequence of milk run. So that we will discuss later. Then all shipment via DC with inventory storage. So DC, there are two cases. One distribution center with storage, otherwise it will be the cross docking center. So what are the pros? It will have the lower inbound transportation cost through consolidation. And second, if it is with cross dock, then also there will be lower transportation cost. But what is the con? That it will have the increased handling at DC. And in case of DC with inventory storage, unnecessarily the goods will be unloaded from the truck and it will be stored in the DC. So all the inventory cost, जितनी भी हमारी inventory cost होती है जो आपने पहले पढ़ी भी होगी, carrying cost, handling cost, storage cost, labor cost, loading unloading cost, ये सारी cost आपको लगने लगेगी because you are unloading the material from the truck, then storing it for some days or a week in the distribution center, and again you will load it to the truck at the time of delivery. While in cross docking, there will be the complexity. Then shipping via DC using milk runs, which is the combination method. So it will have the lower transportation cost for small lot, but again it is very complex to design the milk runs via DC also, because in one trip कौन से buyer को cover करना है, उनका आपस में distance कितना है, is every buyer under one route or you have to take a D route to cover all the buyers. Then if you are taking a D route, what is the transportation cost, what is the fuel cost? So it is a very complex decision which is to be taken after scientific and economic analysis. Last option is tailored network, which is the topic of today's concern. In this, we decide the method. Okay, we decide the design option tailored made. So what the word means tailored? we design it as per our own choice. Okay, so what is tailored transportation we'll see here. So it is the customized use of different transportation networks and modes by strategic combination of various design options. So as you see, here are 5 to 6 design option. हर एक के कुछ pros है, हर एक के कुछ cons है. So what the meaning of word tailor is when we go for this word in terms of clothes. So there are two options available. One are ready-made clothes and second are tailored clothes. So what are the advantages of tailored clothes? That's but obvious. You will get the fitting as per your own body dimensions. Okay, the tailor takes the measurement of your body perfectly, and the fitting of the shirt or whatever you are going to have, it will perfectly fit to your body. While what is there in the case of ready-made clothes, the clothes are designed with standard ranges of size. Okay, so there is 42, there is 44, there is 46. So you have to adjust in that range. So it cannot be termed as a customized product. So what is tailored transportation? देयर आर वेरियस डिजाइन ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल. हर एक के कुछ फायदे हैं, कुछ नुकसान है. तो हम उसको टेलर करके, मतलब हम उसका एक स्ट्रेटेजिक कॉम्बिनेशन बनाएंगे फॉर आवर केस. ऑब्वियसली वी हैव टू डिसाइड दैट व्हाट इज माय केस, आपके सप्लाई चेन के क्या पैरामीटर्स हैं. उसके ऊपर रादर देन गोइंग विथ वन स्टैंडर्ड स्ट्रेटेजी, यू विल टेक द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ वेरियस डिजाइन ऑप्शंस टू हैव द ऑप्टिमाइज कॉस्ट. Okay, and this combination design will be based on customer and product characteristic. देखना पड़ेगा आपको सारे parameters. The parameters like, the fourth point, dynamic parameters like what is the order size, what is the value, what is the responsiveness. What is responsiveness? Responsiveness of supply chain. Okay, how much it is necessary, what is the uncertainty involved, what is the distance, and many more such factors. So ultimately, tailored transportation aims at lowering the cost to customer, which cost basically the transportation cost and inventory cost to some extent. Okay, तो tailored transportation का simple एक meaning ये है that we have to design the strategy as per our own requirement rather than going with any available design option. We will make the strategy tailor made. Tailor made means as per my convenience and my specification. Okay, so in some further slide we will see the form of tailored transportation model. One, by customer density and distance, and second by size of customer. So let us go and understand what is the tailored transportation model based on customer density and distance. So as we know, there is a distribution center or the cross docking center. So here there are some points which are basically the suggestions. Okay, so talking about customer density and distance. Now what is density? Density, customer density means the concentration of your customer in a particular geographic area. Let's say we are the company located at central India, that is Nagpur. So if I am talking about Nagpur and suburbs, that is Nagpur and rural Nagpur, what is my customer density? Okay, so how many customer, how many customer means how many distinct customer, individual customer I have in a particular area. So talking about East Nagpur, how many customer I have in East Nagpur, that is the density. Okay, so density wise and location wise, some options are suggested here. Like you can see here, if there is high density of customer at near location, then what is preferable? So basically, what design is preferable? So there should be own trucks taking milk run from DC to customer. As you know, distribution center to customer. Own trucks अगर आपके पास है तो अच्छी बात है, because you have high density of customer at near location. So if my factory is in MIDC and I am talking about East Nagpur, which is away from MIDC, so if there is high density of customer at East Nagpur, it will be preferred that own trucks taking milk run from DC to customer. Now my distribution center, let's say it may be somewhere in central Nagpur. So from DC, my trucks will go to every customer and deliver the product. Now, what is the second case? If there is high density but location is remote, okay, so there is high density of customer, let's say at Gondia, okay, or let's say at Wardha. So location is not near, but there is high density of customers there. So what option you will use? You will use the public carrier up to DC or CDC, that is distribution center or cross docking center, and then milk runs by small trucks to customer. Now this DC cannot be the DC at Nagpur, okay? So there will be distribution center locally at Gondia or Wardha. So I will use the public carrier, that is third party agency. So that truck will take my goods to the Gondia distribution center, and from that DC the small trucks will deliver the product to the customer. So this is the suggestion for high density remote location. Now what about low density remote location? So customer is very far away from your location and density is also low. So why will you send the truck? Okay, because customers density is less and location is remote. So you will use the package carrier with limited capacity, just the service like DTDC जो आपको per piece charge करते हैं. Because there are low density of customer, it is not economical to send a truck even to that local DC. So you will use the package carriers, just like a courier service like DTDC. Okay, so this is the table showing the same suggestions for high, medium, and low density of customer at short, medium, and long distance. So you can just read it out for a minute. Now in this table you can see the word LTL carrier. Okay, LTL carrier. So this will be decoded in the next slide. That is, what is LTL or TL carrier? So TL carrier, LTL carrier, PTL carrier is basically, TL stands for truckload. Okay, truckload. So for large customer, it is TL carrier. For smaller customer, it is LTL carrier. So you can see what is the difference between TL, PTL, and LTL. So TL or FTL is full truckload. It means in a complete truck, there will be the goods of one customer only. Okay, listen to this very carefully. In full truckload or TL, that is truckload, complete truck is comprising of the goods and products of a single customer. So this customer must be a big customer with a big order. While what is partial truckload? Okay, so half of the truck or almost more than half of the truck is of one customer. Then to optimize the cost of the truck, we are using the empty space for delivering the order of some other customer. And most widely used truckload is less than truckload. So it is called as LTL. So when the orders are very small, so in a single truck, it is possible we are delivering the goods of almost 10 to 15 customers at one trip. So this is the prime difference between FTL, PTL and LTL. FTL is nothing but TL, that is truckload. Okay, so we will try to understand the cost dynamics. अब ये समझने की कोशिश करो कि transportation cost. There are two types of cost which incurs when we do transportation. Number one, पहली cost होती है transportation cost which is based on distance. And दूसरी होती है delivery cost which is based on number of deliveries. Okay, तो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट क्या है? मैंने एक ट्रक बुक किया, वो completely मेरे को चार्ज करेगा डिस्टेंस पे. नाउ द सर्विस प्रोवाइडर इज नॉट बॉदरिंग अबाउट आई एम सेंडिंग दी हाफ एम्प्टी ट्रक और फुल ट्रक और empty truck. Okay, so the transportation cost is distance based. Now what is delivery cost? It is basically the charge we take from the customer against delivery. So it is basically on the number of deliveries, number of products. So to optimize both this cost, what is the smart way? Let us discuss. Okay, now you can see this truck. This is the cold storage truck having the food products or milk products or beverages which requires cooling. Now just have a thought that this truck has to cover 600 kilometer with this air conditioning on at every kilometer. So there will be a cost of this truck for some distance. Okay. So if the charge for 600 kilometer is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, okay, let's say, so then either you send this truck empty or completely filled or partially filled. That 1 lakh rupees is for the distance covered by the truck for 600 kilometers. So what is the smart way? There should not be any trip with half capacity or partial capacity of the truck. You have to send the truck completely loaded. So what will you do? जिसको भेज रहे हैं उसका ऑर्डर ही उतना बड़ा नहीं है. So you will find some other customer जिसको आप एज ए मिल्क रन उसी रूट में अगर कोई कस्टमर आता है, so we will deliver the product to that customer. Okay, so you can read these two paras. It will give you the clear thought that transportation cost is same whether going to a large customer or a small customer. So if a delivery is to be made to a large customer, including other small customer on the same truck, it can save your transportation cost, as I said. Okay, and for each small customer the delivery cost per unit, okay, the charge we are taking from the customer is higher than that for large customer. It will be higher for small customer. So it is not optimal to deliver to small and large customer with same frequency. So what you do, हायर फ्रीक्वेंसी मतलब जितने ज्यादा ट्रिप्स आप लार्जर कस्टमर के करोगे उतने ही ट्रिप्स आप स्मॉल कस्टमर के नहीं कर पाओगे. इट विल नॉट बी इकोनॉमिकल. So what option is available? That you charge the higher delivery cost to the smaller customer. Okay, or otherwise, as I said, you generate a milk run, design a milk run. If the customer is in same route of larger customer, in a single truck, you can design the milk run. ये डिजाइन को हम बहुत अच्छे से आगे देखते हैं इस स्लाइड में. How you can tailor the truckload. Okay, so there is an example. ओके, और इस एग्जाम्पल के हिसाब से हम एक ही ट्रिप में सारे छोटे बड़े सारे कस्टमर को कैसे इनकॉर्पोरेट करते हैं, वी विल सी दैट. सो हाउ टू डू दिस टेलरिंग? फर्स्ट यू कैटेगराइज योर कस्टमर इनटू लार्ज, मीडियम एंड स्मॉल बेस्ड ऑन द डिमांड. डिमांड मतलब ऑर्डर साइज. सो कौन से कस्टमर का ऑर्डर साइज कितना है उसके हिसाब से हमने उसको लार्ज, मीडियम और स्मॉल कस्टमर में कैटेगराइज कर दिया. देन एज आई नो द लार्ज कस्टमर, उसका साइज बहुत बड़ा है तो मेरे को ज्यादा ट्रिप्स उसको देने पड़ेंगे. ओके, सो जस्ट टू एक्सप्लेन यू, वी हैव डिसाइडेड दैट डेली, इफ आई एम टेकिंग वन ट्रिप डेली, ओके, एक ट्रक मेरा अगर रोज जा रहा है तो लार्ज कस्टमर को डेली डिलीवरी होगा. रोज रोज के ट्रक में लार्ज कस्टमर का सामान रहेगा. ओके, मीडियम कस्टमर का सामान हर दूसरे दिन रहेगा ऑन एवरी सेकेंड मिल्क रन. ओके, सो अल्टरनेट बोलते हैं इसको, एक में रहेगा एक में नहीं रहेगा. एंड देन जो लो डिमांड कस्टमर है जिसको हम स्मॉल कस्टमर्स बोलते हैं, उनका हर तीसरे दिन ट्रिप में जो है वो उसका इनकॉर्पोरेशन रहेगा. बट इफ यू डू दिस देन व्हाट विल हैपन, स्मॉल कस्टमर हैव टू वेट फॉर 2 days. ओके, 2 दिन उसको सामान नहीं मिलेगा, तीसरे दिन एक साथ मिल जाएगा. वैसे ही मीडियम कस्टमर को एक दिन सामान नहीं मिलेगा, दूसरे दिन पूरा मिल जाएगा. सो टू डील विद दिस व्हाट वी डू, वी डिवाइड द कस्टमर इनटू सबसेट. तो जैसा हमने डिसाइड किया, एल को डिवाइड करने की जरूरत नहीं है, उसको रोज सामान मिल रहा है. मीडियम कस्टमर्स हर दूसरे दिन उसका हमको मिल्क रन लेना है. सो वी हैव डिवाइडेड इनटू टू पार्ट्स, M1 एंड M2, उसको आधा आधा कर दिया. और स्मॉल कस्टमर का जो सामान था वो तीसरे रन में जा रहा था तो हमने उसको S1, S2, S3 में डिवाइड कर दिया. And now we have created a product mix for daily trip. Okay, you can see here. So for trip 1, or we can say day 1, so there will be large customer, then M1, then S1. Then दूसरे दिन M2 की बारी, तीसरे दिन फिर से M1 की बारी. तो ये हो गया alternate days. The condition is satisfied. Okay, so large is daily. You can see here. Then M1, M2 is alternate days, and S1, S2, S3 is every 3 days. ओके, सो यू कैन सी S1, S1 को आज प्रोडक्ट मिला, फिर 2 दिन बाद फिर से S1 को मिलेगा, S2 को मिला, फिर 2 दिन बाद S2 को मिलेगा, S3 को मिला, फिर 2 दिन बाद S3 को मिलेगा. So in this way, we have prepared a load mix for every trip by combining the large, medium, and small customer. So such tailor-made plan incorporates the interest of every customer with optimized cost of transportation. Okay, so it is not the easy task to design such run, but yes, we can design it scientifically by using some strategies like aggregation and tailoring. So coming to aggregation, now this is one kind of aggregation, but this is aggregation customer wise. Now similarly, you can the whatever we did in this particular slide, that is prepared a load mix for every trip, is called as aggregation. But this is aggregation only by customer size. Customer के size से aggregation किया. Now talking about the aggregation as general, we will see the aggregation strategies. Okay. So first understand the meaning of two words, aggregate and disaggregate. Aggregate means combining, disaggregate means separating. So there are some of the conditions as shown here in which you have to take the decision of either aggregation or disaggregation. Okay. Now we will try to understand how this works. So if we talk about cycle inventory, what is cycle inventory? For every cycle of production, we should keep some inventory. So if the product is for cycle inventory, and what type of product is there? It is high demand, high value product. Okay. Now keep this in mind. High demand, high value product. So you disaggregate to reduce the transportation cost. What it means? When the product is high value and high demand, तो ऐसे ही उस प्रोडक्ट का आपका जो ट्रक है वो वैसे ही बढ़ जाएगा क्योंकि हाई डिमांड प्रोडक्ट है और हाई वैल्यू भी है. So you need not aggregating some other product in that truck. Okay, so you disaggregate to reduce the transportation cost because your product is high demand. It can itself form a complete trip independently. But in case of safety inventory, now safety inventory में क्या होता है, there are variety of products. Okay, there is not a single product. Cycle inventory में there is single type of product, let's say raw material. So raw material is just like one variety of raw material. But safety inventory, there can be number of materials, number of varieties of the product. Then if it is high demand and high value product, you should aggregate to reduce inventory. Now why we should aggregate? बिकॉज जितनी वैरायटी ज्यादा रखेंगे उतना हमको कम इन्वेंट्री मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. सो इट इज समटाइम्स इट इज इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट, समटाइम इट इज ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट. देन कमिंग टू other three cases. One is high demand and low value product. Now what is the example of such products? It can be our daily use product, right, which have high demand, just like bread, milk. Demand is very high but the value is very low. So 10 rupees का पैकेट है ब्रेड का या 20 rupees का पैकेट है बट डिमांड इज वेरी हाई. तो इसको एग्रीगेट करने की जरूरत नहीं. एग्रीगेट मतलब कंबाइन करने की जरूरत नहीं है. देयर कैन बी अ सिंगल ट्रक ऑफ मिल्क, सिंगल ट्रक ऑफ ब्रेड बिकॉज द डिमांड इज हाई and the value of product is low. So you disaggregate the inventory nearby to reduce the transportation cost. Okay. Then if there is low demand and high value product, okay, what can be this product? This can be special case product. Okay, some mobiles or some specific brand or specific variant of some vehicle, some specific model. So there is low demand but value of product is very high, महंगा है product. So in such case, you have to aggregate the inventory to save inventory cost. Okay. While in third case, when there is low demand and low value product, demand भी कम है और product की value भी उतनी ज़्यादा नहीं. So in such case, you have to aggregate the inventory. You have to take the similar product combined together to save the transportation cost. Okay. So these are some of the cases where we have to take the decision that either we have to do aggregation, means combination of strategies, or we have to disaggregate. So it is just like generalization and specialization. So specialization is advisable In some cases where there is high demand, high value products, okay, in such cases you have to do the disaggregation, otherwise you have to do aggregation. And what about cycle inventory? क्योंकि उसका replenishment भी लगेगा. Replenishment मतलब when the inventory is consumed, we have to replenish it. So it is replenished by using inexpensive mode of transportation to save the cost. Because it is not safety inventory, उसकी कोई जल्दी नहीं है, तो आराम से सस्ते मोड ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन से आप उसको मंगवा सकते हो. 8 दिन में भी आए तो चलेगा, बिकॉज इट इज साइकिल इन्वेंट्री. सो you can in this way you can collide your transportation requirements and inventory requirements by using the aggregation strategies. Okay, so in this way, what is tailored transportation in a nutshell? What we did, we prepared a customized and tailored strategic mix based on customer density, distance, customer size, product value, product demand, which which will help us to achieve appropriate flexibility, responsiveness, sustenance, and optimum cost. So this is all about tailored transportation in supply chain management. So thank you. The comment box is open for any kind of query. Have a nice day ahead.